All I want is for all my dreams to come true. This is actually something that I tell myself when I'm feeling a little bit bratty about the work that I have to do, especially if it gets a little bit monotonous or I'm a little bit tired, when I'm feeling a little bit like a brat, like I don't want to do my work for the day. I tell myself, all I want is for all my dreams to come true. And I say that kind of to remind myself that it's supposed to be hard. Like if you actually are trying to create this dream life, and that is certainly my goal, I'm trying to make my life into a masterpiece in a way, that like a masterpiece that not for anyone else, only for me. I'm not trying to be the best at anything. I'm just trying to be someone that 10-year-old me would go, yeah, good job. And in fact, funny I should mention that, 10-year-old me actually wanted to be a video game tester. Before I realized that money was important, before my mind got tainted by capitalism, basically, after that, once I realized money was important, I wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer. But until then, I think I read a Nintendo Power one time, probably a Nintendo Power that I got from the library, that Nintendo had video game testers. And the idea that that could be a job, something that sounds pretty tangential to something that I actually enjoy doing, was just mind-blowing. So I think in a lot of ways, 10-year-old me would be really happy. And I didn't even set out in my eBay career to do video games. I started off, as many of us do, as an everything seller, and then eventually narrowed down to electronics, and then eventually have narrowed down even further to mostly video game related items at this point. But it's just about the quality of the items that you can find. And so I've continued to just sell the best inventory I could find, and I've just slowly refined my ability to find good inventory over time, I guess. It is one of those big skills. But not just that, my ability to process inventory and to not have waste. And I got good enough with the inventory that I had to get enough money to be able to buy in different ways. So anyway, something to think about when things get hard today in your eBay business or in your reselling business, that I think it's supposed to be. I think the 100-year-old you looking back on your life, if you actually achieve everything you ever wanted, I think it's okay that that was a struggle. That would actually make sense. If you got everything that you ever wanted and it was easy and there wasn't much struggle, would that story even be as worth telling? I don't know. Something we're thinking about. I think it's okay that it's hard. If you're going for something big, if you have dreams, like I said, I'm literally trying to create my dream life here. I just finished an excellent book. It was a shorter one too. It was only maybe a 2 or 3 hour audiobook called Anything You Want by Derek Sievers, who was the founder of a company called CD Baby. And he said something that has stuck with me, one of my favorite things from this book. And there were a lot of quotable moments, a lot of things that I wrote down. One of my favorite things that he said was, when you're building your own business, this is your chance to create your own personal utopia. This is your chance. Like, you have the driver's seat in a lot of ways. Like, there's a lot of things that you don't have control over as an eBay reseller. Oh, buyers aren't buying. Oh, eBay's algorithm. Goodwill this, Goodwill that. Well, there's stuff that's out of your control in everything. That's life, right? You're never going to be fully in control. But eBay certainly puts you in the driver's seat. You get to choose where to source. You get to choose where you list and how you list. You get to have 100% control over your hours in the day. That's the reason that I love eBay. Maybe the most is the freedom. Like, yes, it's a job. Yes, I put in 40 to 60 plus hours per week into this job, but I get to choose when I do it. And for me, oftentimes, that's that time that, you hear Gary Vee talking about. If you really care about your side hustle, then from, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. or whatever it is, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m., once you get home, that's when you work on your side hustle, right? Well, I don't have a side hustle. I only do eBay because eBay is what pays the bills. And if I put more money into eBay, I can just get more money to help fulfill the rest of my dreams. One of the 3 reasons that I love eBay as a job so much is 1, the freedom, 2, the financial independence, and then 3 is the upward mobility. I know that if I put more time into eBay, I will get more money out of the system. If I put listings into the machine, eBay keeps putting money into my bank account over and over again. We're talking about a worldwide audience here. You really don't need to worry about trends. You don't need to worry about consumer fears. All you need to do is just put up quality listings to your store. Someone will buy them. I also recommend promoted listings for everyone. Promoted listings is basically just a way to offload another part of your business to eBay for a set fee, which I think is completely fair. Promoted listings, basically, you're paying eBay to market your products. So you put the listing on, all you have to do is click one more check mark that says add to promoted listings. And when you do that, for me, I pay up to 8% promoted listings. So that's an extra 8% fee on top of the already approximately 14% fees that eBay takes from us as eBay sellers. I happily pay that extra 8% for promoted listings so that eBay will go out, figure out the demographics, age 30 to 34, so-and-so. They go out there on sites like Facebook and Google and they advertise our items on eBay to those people and try to get buyers. Because of course, eBay is also incentivized to get buyers on eBay because they make money on every sale. And if you're in this promoted listings program, you're paying them for marketing, but if they can find a buyer for less than you pay them, they're also making extra money off of your promoted listing fee. So in my mind, that's a win-win. I see eBay as being incentivized to sell your item, and I see me as being incentivized to sell my item. And you just got to work those numbers into your buy cost. Of course, that's part of the metrics. And so the fees that you pay is certainly something that you should take into account. There's great, if you just Google eBay fee calculator, you can type in all those numbers just to get an idea of how much profit is going to be hitting your bank account at the end of the day. And that's all I care about. And what promoted listings does is it finds buyers that I don't think otherwise would have been able to find my items, because it finds the buyers who are not just opening up ebay.com or the eBay mobile app and hitting search, but you're getting buyers from all over the internet using that promoted listings program and just paying eBay a fee. And what I love about the regular promoted listings program, not the off-site or anything like that, I'm just talking about standard promoted listings, is that you don't pay eBay for that service until you make a sale. And what's actually quite unique about that is eBay is actually taking a little bit of the risk there, because as far as I know, they're having to buy that advertising. If I'm just thinking it through, I haven't read this anywhere, I'm just kind of like using logic here, but I think eBay has to go ahead and buy advertising to make the sale. And so they're actually paying extra money, hoping to make it up in that promoted listing fee when they eventually sell the item for you. So it's almost like eBay's taking the risk there. Usually whoever's, paying the marketing is the person selling the item, but this is just almost passing off that risk and just saying that, like, you can market as much as you want. And if you're able to find one of those buyers, yeah, I'll pay you an extra 8%. So that's the way that I see it. I'm happy to pay it. All I want is for all my dreams to come true. That is what I tell myself when things are hard, things are getting a little bit monotonous. I think that making money is monotonous. Finding a way to make money is exciting and fun. But once you figure out the thing that you need to make, or the type of the type of item that you need to list, for your eBay store, if you've run the numbers, what's your average sales price? And then how many items do you need to sell until you can retire? It's gonna be like thousands, right? Are you okay with that? I actually have thought about that. That is part of the reason maybe that I've been increasing my average sales price of my items, but at the same time, if the items are easy enough, I will sell $3 to $10 replenishable items on eBay all day until I retire, because I have gotten my systems down that easy, and I've gotten myself in that mindset that if I have to sell 100, 200, or 300 of these items to make my numbers, I think I could actually do that. I think I got the poly bags already. My system's easy. I think I could do that in a couple hours and I can move on to something else. So I think it's okay, but I think you just got to run those numbers. And I think that a lot of people just don't realize how much work it is to actually sell that many items to make your dreams come true. And so they get to a certain point in their eBay business, and then it gets hard or monotonous, and then they're looking for a VA or they're looking for an employee, thinking that that's the answer because they're getting overwhelmed with the work. I don't think that's the solution for most of us. Unless you happen to be a phenomenal boss, and I think that being a phenomenal boss encompasses a lot of things. You have to be an excellent communicator and motivator. You have to be incredibly consistent, but you also have to be flexible because you have to be the one to fill in if someone else isn't able to fulfill their duties in the business, because at the end of the day, nobody really cares as much about your business as you do. So you're the one who's going to have to fill in those gaps. And I think that instead of taking on all that extra responsibility, people think it's easier to scale. It's almost never easier to scale, I will tell you that. My wife and I used to own a restaurant and 3 food carts. We were the most profitable in the first few months when it was just the 2 of us in a single food cart before we had these dreams of expanding the business, and we did. And we expanded, we certainly did that. What we didn't expand, unfortunately, was our paychecks. I mean, we were able to pay a lot of other people and increase the amount of customers that we fed. But with that also came an increase in stress, and our paycheck was still here as like a budding restaurateur, but we had all these employees and responsibilities, and it just didn't match. And looking back, I almost think that we were happiest, even though it was harder in some ways because my wife and I almost never saw each other back then. It was either she or I working the food cart. And if we wanted to hang out, we'd have to also come to the business and hang out, and we'd talk, because you'd get home and you'd be so tired. And working in the restaurant business, as I'm sure so many of you know, is so hard. You're on your feet and you're also cooking and cleaning all day. So you get home and the last thing you want to do is do anything to take care of yourself or your house. So the food service industry is hard. That is why anyone that's ever worked in the food industry, as me and my wife has, and so many of us, you learn that you should tip well. You should tip well because that job is really hard. You don't realize until you do it how hard it is. So all I want is for all my dreams to come true. We're making our dreams come true here. Like, this is way easier because it's staying small. My wife and I, in the first couple of months of owning the food cart, we bought a car. We just with cash. Our expenses were so low, and I didn't realize the enormous benefit to that of keeping your expenses razor thin so you can actually appreciate those profits. Because the bigger the machine that you build gets, the more moving parts that there are, the more maintenance is required. And I actually like it when my phone is quiet. I like it when not that many people are calling me. I like my text message threads and I like keeping in touch with people that way. But the urgent calls that I used to experience as a business owner with employees has stopped. Now with eBay, now we're keeping it small, and that's our goal. All I get is just lovely calls from my wife saying, hey, what are you up to today? So I feel very, very lucky for that. Oh, here I am chatting and not working. I do want these to be productive work sessions. I hope you're also working too. So that's why this time around with our business, we are trying to keep it as small as possible for as long as possible. Because I like the ability to just go on vacation. There's literally a page on eBay that says vacation mode. I click that check mark. I say when I'm going to be back. And that's all I have to do to go hang out with my wife and my family, go on vacation. We could do that spontaneously. And what you don't realize is that when you grow with employees, suddenly that becomes a separate thing. Now, are you forcing your employees to go on vacation as well? Or are you going to have a bunch of work set up for them beforehand? In which case, you are starting to create this life that has this increasing demand on you constantly, where if you have a business that's running 24/7, that can have some certain I mean, like, yeah, if you have an employee and they need work, then that just means you have to do more work before you even try to think about going on vacation to set them up with anything that they might need and answer all their questions. And maybe you'll be out of cell service. And I don't think a lot of people think about how complicated it is each time you bring someone on board. I mean, it's a relationship. You're going to be talking so much, maybe more than your loved ones at some points. And it is another relationship in your life to manage. And it's so cool if you could figure out a way to maybe hire a friend. But that, I don't know. At the same time, I cringe saying that because you're also taking on that financial responsibility of now, what happens if you're not able to pay them or provide work for them, or you go on vacation but you don't have enough stuff for them to do, or it makes life a lot more complicated. I think we need to remember that wealth is a ratio. I've said this before. It is not about how much you make. It is about how much you keep. So if you can figure out a way to make us just even a little bit more money, but while still keeping everything just as small, then you can actually realize all of those returns. And that's why I relish in the dorky stuff, the nerdy stuff about eBay, getting the best tape gun. I use 3-inch tape in my tape guns only because I can just do a single wrap around the boxes. All these little things add up, and I didn't have to hire anyone. I made a single purchase on Amazon, and now I'm making more per hour, essentially. Anything that makes your life even a little bit more efficient as a solopreneur or as a small business owner like this, I think just pays itself back. You're essentially giving yourself a raise. And so if I even hear that there's some tool, some new box cutter, or some new thing that I can buy that improves my business, I will buy it without hesitation. It's gotten to the point that my wife just doesn't even check the Amazon packages anymore because she's been let down so many times with how boring the stuff that I buy is. She's just over it. She's like, I don't even want to know. Let me know if it happens to be something for me. But she just throws the poly bags at me now because all I do is buy tape, and it just, I don't even know. I think I sound like I'm obsessed with tape, but I also love bubble wrap and every flavor of boxes. And I love all that stuff. I love my disc resurfacing machine. Anything that can save time or essentially give yourself a raise through a one-time purchase, that I think is worth investing in. And it's worth getting every single one of those things before you even consider hiring an employee with such high expenses. I mean, you think a disc resurfacer is expensive, but an employee is going to cost you $100 a day. I mean, how much are you planning on paying these people? Hopefully at least some kind of a living wage, $100 a day, $150 a day. And that doesn't just come out of your top end eBay number as an employer. You got to remember that. It's not like you can just subtract $150 out of your top eBay sales. That you have to pay that $150 out of your profit. And in fact, to pay someone $150, you got to pay them like $165 because of things like payroll taxes. It's just it's expensive. Owning a business is expensive. Just assume things are going to be more expensive than you think. But especially having employees, like now, okay, so it's $100 a day, $150 a day, and then how many days a week? I mean, are you going to actually pay this person $30,000, $40,000 a year? And that we got to take that out of your current business profits. So you either have to be, dead sure that you can immediately make that much profit, not just generate that much sales, right? It's tricky. I didn't run those numbers the first time I hired employees, and that's why I guess I'm kind of trying to caution you here. So that's enough of that, I think. It's supposed to be hard. It's okay that it's hard. And I encourage you to lean into the hard and just get really good at this. Don't assume that the answer is bringing more people on board. I think the answer might be asking for advice. Bring more people on board in the sense of saying, hey, check out my setup. What do you think I could do to improve it? Like get more brains involved. But the responsibility of having an employee is just enormous. And I don't think a lot of people recognize that, especially if you're trying to hire someone full time, or even if not, like that's someone's livelihood. That's someone's life. That is how many hours per week that they're spending. And I think it's important that you're able to provide something sustainable for someone. I think a job should be dependable. Like as an employer, we should be in the position of stability. because we recognize that not everyone is, but someone needs to be the more stable to keep everything afloat. And it's just, think about the enormity of the responsibility. I think I'm done. I feel like I'm getting a little bit big brother here, but just be careful. Be careful about hiring employees. Okay, number 2 thing I've been thinking about in this last couple days. Alex Hormozy said something that I think kind of relates to this whole conversation. He said, how much you love something is directly proportional to how much you're willing to sacrifice for it. So it might be a good time to reflect and ask yourself, as a business owner, as an eBay owner, what am I sacrificing to make these dreams come true? And to bring it back to what I was saying, I really do think that I'm here trying to make my dreams come true. Derek Sievers, the founder of CD Baby, he said, starting a business, creating a business, building a business is your chance to create your personal utopia. And I'm willing to sacrifice a lot for utopia. I'll tell you that. And so what I've chosen to give up is Netflix at night, video games at all, basically. The only time now that I play video games is with my kids as a way to bond. So me and my 8-year-old son are playing Halo 2 on the original Xbox, the co-op campaign right now. That's been a lot of fun. We're also playing Mario Wonder together as a family because that game's just delightful. And a cool thing for those of you that have kids out there, Mario Wonder on the Switch is one of the only Mario games that I know of that doesn't have a time limit on the top. So it's been really great for my younger kids to just explore the controls without feeling like that oppressive time. So how much you love is directly proportional to how much you're willing to sacrifice for something. And of course, we can think about our kids and say, well, yeah, I would sacrifice everything for them. And that's easy to say, but maybe a good time to ask yourself, actually, what am I sacrificing for them? Like, I think about them a lot. I mean, as a parent, it's almost like, it's to borrow some Mr. Beast language, it's OP, I think, in some ways, being a parent, because you just love them so much that you can tap into some strength. I've found that on my long runs, when I go for a long run in the woods, if you start thinking about how I'm doing this for them and I love my kids so much and I want to be healthy for them when I'm older, like I almost just barely have to start thinking through that kind of a thought process, and it gives my legs so much strength to think about wanting to be an example and be strong. I mean, it's just, I guess maybe it's just one of those things you have to experience, but it's almost like a cheat code. Like you can really just tap into something like next level. It's that kind of like strength. I think that people talk about, like that mom, seeing that her kid is trapped under a car and like using this strength to lift it up and save her kid. This pure adrenaline, protective instinct strength. I don't know if I have that much. I think that being a mom is a whole different level of connection with your kids. And I was just watching on Brian Johnson's YouTube channel. He's the Don't Die guy. And he was having a kind of a dinner talking about longevity and health. And at one point, all the women just unanimously agreed, at least all the mothers, just unanimously agreed, like, oh yeah, of course I would give up my life for my kid. Like, it's not even a question. Like, it wasn't even a question. And for me, I'm a little bit more like Spider-Man in that movie where I think like Mary Jane was on one side and the kids in the school bus were on the other side. And I think Green Goblin was trying to make him choose which one. And Spider-Man's like, I think I can save them both. I think for me, somebody asked me a question like, would you die for your kids? I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to try to get both of us out of there alive. I'm not really thinking so much about the sacrifice part, whereas all the women at this dinner, and my wife too, when I told her about this little anecdote, she's like, oh yeah, I mean, obviously, of course I would. And so I don't have quite that amount of power, of strength to tap into, I think, as a parent, just being a dad. But being a dad, I do feel like I can tap into a little bit of that and recognize that I would sacrifice a lot for them. And I can certainly sacrifice being a little bit uncomfortable for a few minutes to get a good workout in so that I'll be around when I'm 80. That's how I think about it. Like, you have to work out. You have to move your body if you want to be healthy. I don't even see it as optional. So that's just a way to help me push myself a little further. It's kind of getting into my mindset a little bit. Like, I'm willing to sacrifice a lot. And for my eBay business, well, it's not that many steps to tap into that protective instinct as well as a parent. I think that's been a big motivator for me. But just the fact that this is how we pay the bills for my kids. I can think about that. And that gives me all kinds of strength. And that gives me the ability to skip some of that fun stuff. Now, I think I went a little too far on that last year. And this year, I bought a bike on Facebook Marketplace that I need to fix up. And I'm leaving it in my room here as a reminder to myself that it's okay to have hobbies too. Because again, I think I err more on the side of workaholic than anything. But I think I'm kind of in the minority for most of us. And I think for most of us, it's worth checking in with ourselves and saying, what could I give up in order to make my dreams happen? And it's okay that it's hard. It's okay that it even sucks for a little while. Because I know at the end of the day, looking back, I'm going to be happy that I made some hard choices. If the goal is compelling enough. And for me, I'm literally trying to create my dream job. And in the bigger picture, my dream life. Like straight up. I'm not afraid to say, like I'll probably fail along the way because it won't be perfect. But I'm okay with that. I almost have a hard time even saying that because I've fully accepted the fact that it won't be perfect. And I'm just appreciating the journey. But I'm going for gold over here. I'm going for the dream life. So that is worth sacrificing for. And that is going back to that Alex Hormozy quote. How much you love something is directly proportional to how much you're willing to sacrifice for it. Okay. Should we get on to a little bit of tactical eBay business before we wrap up this video here? I think we should. So the tactical question I want to get into is, how do you know if you can afford something? I think this is a question that I actually first heard posed very clearly from Ramit Sethi, who has a show called How to Get Rich on Netflix, and he gives money advice and has a great YouTube show called Money for Couples. And he, at some point, I think in one of his podcasts, asked someone, how do you know if you can afford something? And that was just such a beautifully and simply crafted question that it has stuck in my head since then. And it goes the same for business. As an eBay owner, when you're considering buying an inventory, how do you know if you can afford it? And I think it's going to come back to one of these boring principles of just doing business the right way. And you're probably going to groan when you hear me say this because you've already heard it 10 times, but sometimes cliches are cliches for a reason. How do you know if you can afford something? You check your metrics. You need to have metrics in your business. You need to know what your numbers are. You need to know what it costs to break even for your day and honestly for your life. If you're considering eBay as a full-time job, you need to know every expense in your life on a monthly basis. And then you need to include some wiggle room there for unforeseen expenses. And there's plenty of basic guides. Excuse me. I was getting a little bit of fluff in that power cable port there. I got worried for a second. There are plenty of budgeting guidelines. In fact, Ramit Sethi has something called the Conscious Something Plan, CSP, Conscious Spending Plan, that is similar to a budget, but has some good guidelines. For example, you want your fixed expenses in your life to be around 50 or 60% ideally. So in your life, and 50 or 60% of your monthly income. So what that means is all your expenses in your life. That's your rent, your car payments, your insurance, any student loans, any credit card payment minimums. You need to add all that up. You got to figure out what is your monthly number. Just do it once. Figure out what is that monthly number. Because I'll tell you, it is anxiety producing, I think, for a lot of us to dig into this stuff, to really have to open up our bank accounts. I remember a time in my life where even opening up my bank account caused anxiety for me. I've definitely been there. But I think that if you do it once, you get the numbers, I think overall it's going to reduce your anxiety. So I think it's almost a gift you can give to yourself to run these numbers just to know what does it cost for you to live. And hopefully that number should be 50 to 60% of your monthly income. And that will account for things like maybe making extra payments on your credit card, savings, investments, all that stuff exists in that extra 40 or so percent, hopefully, of excess income that you have on a monthly basis. And once you start getting up into the 70, 80% expenses, where 70, 80, 90% of your monthly income is taken up by all the costs, by all the things that your life costs, well, that's when your life starts to feel out of control. That's when you start to feel like I'm broke, because you kind of are, because you have no money left over for emergencies or for anything. And we have to assume things are going to get more expensive and things are going to come up. Your car is going to break down. So we need to include some wiggle room there. You can't just make your expenses. We need to, so an extra 40% or so is what Ramit Sethi's typical guidelines are. And I like his advice so far. It's been really sound and boring. A lot of it is just put your money in index funds. And that's why I find eBay so exciting. Once I figured out that process of buying an item, selling it, getting enough money to buy another item or two and put some money into my bank account, because now we have a high yield savings account. Right now, high yield savings accounts are offering some pretty good rates. And you can also just invest that money in something like an index fund and expect close to 10% per year returns. Something like the S&P 500. That all the money that you're making is going to start compounding, hopefully. It's not that hard to invest your excess money in an index fund. What's hard is saving the money, not just spending it on more stuff. And that's why we got to stick to the metrics. And then as we continue to buy and sell items, we're not accumulating junk, because we're not getting a death pile. We're listing everything we buy. We're just getting excess money in the bank, and that is just earning us more money. I think that the easiest and the most accessible form of passive income is just investing. Just invest your money. You will literally make money on your money with zero effort. How many of the passive income streams that you've read about are actually zero work? This one's boring. It's only 10%, but if you continue to put money into that and then it's growing through compound interest in the meantime, that's the reason that Einstein said that compound interest was one of the wonders, it's like the 8th wonder of the world or something. Because once your money is making you more money, then you get more money to make more money with. It starts to compound. It's a snowball effect. That's what we want. So eBay is just a way to keep piling snow on that snowball until your nest egg grows to the point where you're set and you got that FU money that we all want. Maybe that's just me. Maybe. I don't know. I think most of us want enough money to have that freedom to kind of do and say whatever we want. So how do you know if you can afford something? I go, is for your personal and your business, you need to know all of your expenses, all of them. You need to know how much everything costs in your business and your life. And then you got to figure out, well, how much do I need to sell on eBay to make that happen? Those are the two numbers that you need. How much does my life cost? What do I need to make? Maybe figure out that number. How much does my life cost? And then set a goal higher than that to allow for accidents and incidentals and to allow you to take some of that excess money and start to invest it. Because the whole point is not to be running on a hamster wheel forever, hopefully. Although I do plan on working on eBay forever. I don't plan on needing to work on eBay forever. I plan on having enough money to be good one day. That's like the whole point of retiring, I think, is just making enough money that you know you're going to be good, that my kids are not going to feel obligated to take care of me in some way, that we're going to be fine. My wife and I are going to be all right. We're taken care of. I literally plan to do that through eBay. And that's why I'm making this YouTube channel. I'm trying to explain my thought process along the way here. So this is Advanced eBay Chat. My name is Joe, aka Profit First Reseller, and let's talk another time. This is fun.